son. Where'd you find this?
Just do it! Make your dreams come true!
A few moments later.
You are now listening to Podcast 42, the world's most popular, inaccurate, and sometimes squirreled retelling of pop culture history.
It's time for another episode of Podcast 42. I'm Christopher DeVos.
I'm James Duncan.
Did you forget who you were?
No, I started reading the script and then went, oh yeah, okay, I have to finish off who my
That's
name
fine. At the end of the day, I'm still J. Eltros.
is. I was going to be like, I'm the English guy, the British guy, something else guy.
And I'm the beer guy.
Yes, and I'm the guy with the weird voice.
Weird
You're
voice
the
guy.
man with the plan.
Well, we're recording this on the day that The Last Jedi is released. We have not seen it yet, so we're going to do a Star Wars episode, and it'll be real interesting to see how this movie does.
We're intrigued. It's all about the porks.
Yes.
That's right. And you know what we need before a movie? Beer.
All right, let's open up that beer cooler.
All right, guys. I went to the store. I got a beer, mainly because it intrigued me. It said Juicy Hop Pale Ale. So I brought Two Brothers Brewing Company's Pinball Pale Ale. It's got a nice 5.4 ABV. It's supposed to have a little citrus to it. I mean, the description's great. It's like, from the moment pinball is shot out of the can, this Juicy Hop Pale Ale takes your taste buds on the flavorful ride worthy of a bonus ball. Bounce between bumpers of tropical and citrus fruit, Pinball perfectly rides the rail between hoppy and sweet. A sure bet to never drop through the drain. Pinball is always special when well lit.
You said ball.
Multiple times.
You love balls.
Well, if you are familiar with our show, we normally go into the rating, but we're going to wait for that till the end.
Also, this beer is from Warrenville, Illinois, and all that, so we'll see how it goes the entire time.
All right, excellent. But now let's talk about, since The Last Jedi is being released today, even though this episode that we're recording probably won't be released for a month. You okay, JL?
Yeah. The first sip was a little surprise.
Let's talk about the making of A New Hope, Star Wars 4.
Or one. Or, yeah.
Exactly.
Who knows anymore?
No.
The start of a franchise.
Yes.
So, a long, long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away. Insert copyrighted music here.
I'm
Yes.
totally putting my papers going over your head. Like
Yeah.
you could read
You have to
everything
the
as this
script
is
like
going.
now it's being projected on
Yeah.
a wall, but no one can see it apart from us. So
It's like the opening crawl, which is not in the script since you brought that up, but that opening crawl got George Lucas in trouble because at the time the movie industry said you had to have everybody's names in the beginning of the film, and he didn't.
Get out, really?
And he had to pay a fine for that.
Oh, worth it, though.
It's
It made it
honestly,
legendary.
that was totally worth it.
Yeah. Well, it ended up being totally worth it, but as we're about to find out, it possibly could not have been worth it.
Ooh.
Star Wars is the Star Wars film, which was later retitled Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, was released in 1977 and was written and directed by George Lucas. It's the first film in the original Star Wars trilogy and, confusingly, the first Star Wars film, even though it's the fourth film in the Star Wars story. This is mainly to confuse non-Star Wars fans and makes them utter the phrase, "I don't get what the big deal is about Star Wars," or the lie, "I've never seen it," which I find hard to believe if anybody ever tells me that.
If you're a child, I understand.
Yes.
You're a grown adult, there's no way you haven't seen a Star Wars film in any way.
No, there's no way. Not as impacted as this film has had. There's no way. Or you've at least seen part of it, or you know it.
Or you know a character, or you know something.
Yes,
Exactly.
there is something you know about Star Wars.
It starred Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, Peter Cushing, Alec Guinness, David Prowse, James Earl Jones. Both those guys actually played the same character. Anthony Daniels, Kenny Baker, and Peter Mayhew. Side note, even though James Earl Jones supplied the voice of Darth Vader, he specifically requested not to be credited. At the time, the reason he cited was that he felt he had not done enough work to get the billing, but he later admitted that he didn't want his name associated with the film because he was still an up-and-coming actor and didn't want to be typecast. Jones does receive billing in his sequels and in the 1997 special edition. And I also believe that Jones probably didn't want credited because of some of the controversy behind the movie. Mm-hmm. Everyone thought it was going to be a flop.
So, in case you lived under a rock, or in a galaxy far, far away, or just a special or a 3-year-old listening to this podcast, the film's plot focuses around the Rebel Alliance, led by Princess Leia. And it attempts to destroy the Galactic Empire space station, which, if you don't know what it is, it's the Death Star.
Oh, what?
I've never seen the movie.
You've never seen the movie. It's a big, like, round ball in space that has stuff that can blow shit up.
Oh, okay.
So, for non-Stan Wars... Stan Wars? Stan Wars!
Stan Wars.
It's the Stan Wars, yes, even I. For the non-Star Wars fans, it's a big ball thingy. Essentially what Chris has told us, what I said, and everything else.
Yes.
Luke Skywalker, living with his soon-to-be-killed aunt and uncle, well, there's a lot of spoilers in here, guys, on a desert planet of Tatooine, acquires a pair of droids. Droids are robots, by the way. They came from a clipped version of Android. See what they did there? Yeah. The process is, that process...
That possesses.
Yes, I'm trying to put R in this word that doesn't have one. That possesses stolen architectural plans for the Death Star to blow it up. When the Empire, the bad guys, begins a search for the missing droids, Skywalker accompanies Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi, played by Alec Guinness, whom he finds living in the desert. Like an old man who just wants his TV show and his orange soda, and just to leave him alone, damn it. I just fucked that whole bit up.
Yes, you
I'm
did.
going to start that again.
Okay. Please do, because you messed up the joke.
Yes. I know, I read it and went, okay. Skywalker accompanies Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi, whom he finds living in the desert. Like an old man...
You're missing the joke again.
Where?
You gotta
Living
say
by himself.
Oh, okay.
If you missed that crucial
Like
line,
a hermit in the desert, living by himself.
the last part of the joke doesn't work.
Okay. Skywalker accompanies Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi, whom he finds living by himself in the desert. Like an old man who he just wants his TV shows and his orange soda and just leave him alone, damn it. There are 2 missions to return the plans to the Rebel Alliance and rescue Leia from her imprisonment by the Empire. Along the way, he meets Han Solo and Chewbacca, that's the big furry guy, and some great space adventures, some comedy, some tears, and iconic film ensures.
Anybody else get upset that Chewbacca doesn't get a medal at the end?
Yes.
Yeah, well, the medal didn't fit him. That's what I'm going with.
I know, but it's still kind of aggravating. It's like, here, Luke, you get a medal. Han, you came out of nowhere. You get a medal. Chewie, thanks for tagging along.
Maybe he's allergic to gold.
I think there might be some reveal in this script about that. I think it's a budget thing.
Oh, that would make sense. Because Star Wars was released in theaters May 25th, 1977. It earned $461 million in the U.S. and $314 million overseas. It surpassed Jaws, my favorite film of all time, which was released in 1975 to become the highest-grossing film. E.T., the extraterrestrial, in 1982 would eventually beat it. If they do that adjusted for inflation thing that movie people like to do, Star Wars is the second highest-grossing film in North America and third highest-grossing film in the world. It received 10 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture, and won 7 of them. It is part of the U.S. Library of Congress's National Film Registry's culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant collection. Its soundtrack was added to the U.S. National Recording Registry in 2004. Whatever that is, I don't know. The Star Wars machine includes TV shows, novels, comic books, video games, toys, furniture, theme park, home accents, and clothing.
So I'm going to ask you a question to both of you now.
Okay.
So what do you own from this? Do you own novels?
Yes.
Well,
Comics?
Book on tape
Yes.
count?
Yes. Video games?
Yes.
Toys?
Yes.
Furniture?
I believe I have some somewhere.
Have you been on the
I don't, but we know Faraz does.
Yes. Theme park rides? Have you ridden?
Yes.
Yes.
Home accents?
Yes.
I
have.
think that's part of the furniture thing, wouldn't you say?
Well,
No, like I have the R2D2 measuring cup set.
Oh.
And I have the Millennium Falcon cutting board that you have, James.
yes, which is cool. And then clothing, I'm wearing a Star Wars t-shirt underneath. JL, you're wearing a Star Wars t-shirt and shoes. Chris?
I'm wearing a Mr. Meeseeks.
I may also be wearing Star Wars underwear, but that
There
is
you
for
go.
another time and story and
And-
everything.
And our beer was wrapped in Star Wars koozie. I think they got us. I think
Yeah.
they did good.
Slightly got us there.
Film's success led to two critically and commercially successful sequels: The Empire Strikes Back in 1980,
Greatest Star Wars film of all time.
it's my favorite, and Return of the Jedi in 1983, which is okay, in my opinion.
I'm slightly partial just because that's the year I was born, and it was the first movie I actually saw of,
Really?
of all of them.
Yeah, and it's not bad. It's definitely not the worst of the Star Wars.
No.
Star Wars was reissued multiple times at Lucas's doing, incorporating many changes including modified computer-generated effects, altered dialogue, re-edited shots, remixed soundtracks, and added scenes. A prequel trilogy, which you can skip if you've never seen Star Wars, was released beginning with The Phantom Menace in 1999, then Attack of the Clones in 2002, and finally Revenge of the Sith in 2005. Well, you could probably see Revenge of the Sith.
Attack of the Clones wasn't terrible.
No, I think
Yeah.
I feel like you can skip Phantom Menace, though.
But I don't know, because like in the whole grand genre of them all, they have good parts in all of them, but they could have made, like, I think The Phantom Menace and the Clone Wars one movie.
Yeah.
And then maybe like, I think the third one, Revenge of the Sith, is the most important, though, because that is the forming of Vader.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the most important one, and I think that's still my favorite out of that second, the prequel trilogy. So
I do like Attack of the Clones if they could edit out that whole sitting in the fields with the...
Jar Jar Binks.
See, I
no,
love...
with Anakin and...
Yeah.
Yeah. I love Attack of the Clones. Like, you know, it's... Jango Fett, I feel they could have done more within that to explore that whole mythology that they did there for him with the clone troopers. And the whole scene at the end, like the battle scene, like where they have the gladiator thing going with Padme and like Mace Windu comes walking up, like that whole build up there. And finally the reveal of Count Dooku. I feel they could have done a lot more with that scene there.
Yeah. The latest trilogy is The Force Awakens in 2015, The Last Jedi in 2017, released today, but you're not hearing it today. And at the time of this recording, an untitled third film. Another prequel was Rogue One in 2016. Production on the Han Solo movie is currently underway, and rumors of standalone Boba Fett and Jabba the Hutt movies continue to circulate the internet like a Wookiee's wet dream.
I would totally see a Boba Fett standalone.
So would I.
I don't think I could see a Chewbacca standalone, though. If they did that, that'd be the most annoying thing. It'd be like watching like a Minion movie, but with no Badoos. It'd be...
Well, now that you've announced that, they're going to make it.
Yeah.
I've just announced the Wookiee movie.
Yep, and James is going to be the head writer.
Yes, it's going to be a furry comedy. Lucas wanted to make a space western kind of Firefly movie thing. However, Firefly creator Joss Whedon was only 8 at the time, so he was no help. Lucas had completed directing his first full-length film called THX 1138. THX 1138 was developed from Lucas's student film Electronic Labyrinth THX 1138 4EB, which he made in 1967. Maybe use words, George, in the future. For
Yeah,
this.
can you imagine
He did.
that
That's how
title
he came
on
up
the
with his.
marquee?
I mean, come on. That's why his sound company was THX.
Yeah.
He made this in 1967 when attending the University of Southern California's film school. The THX 1138's plot is set in a dystopia future in which the populace is controlled through android police officers and manage to use drugs that suppress emotion. Hang on, that sounds like something.
It's the future.
Yeah, it's like every futuristic movies in the 60s or early 70s was always about the dystopian future with stuff.
I think they were onto something.
Maybe. Sorry. The drug suppressed the emotion, including outlawing sexual desire, which sounds like loads and loads of fun for people suppressing my sexual desire.
Yes.
Lucas decided, as well as the 3 people who watched it, it was too bleak. So he decided he wanted to make something more fun and space opera-like. His first thought was to adapt the Flash Gordon space adventure comics and serials into his own thing, which, you know, eventually Flash Gordon did get his thing. It was a great one-off movie. Really, it's got some great lines in there.
Yeah, you just like it for the Queen soundtrack.
Yeah,
It's
that's really
maybe
all.
the best soundtrack in the movie, apart from maybe that. So
Yeah.
Lucas was a fan of the theme since he was a child, and in 1979, I want to say the 60s. I'm obsessed with the 60s right here. In 1979, he was quoted saying,
I especially love the Flash Gordon serials. Of course, I realize now how crude and badly done they were. Loving them that much when they were so awful, I began to wonder what would happen if they were done really well.
Wait a minute. Is he talking about Phantom Menace, or is he talking about Flash Gordon? I got lost.
Both.
Both.
Oh, okay.
And I also wonder if I could do them worse, too. As a lark. That would be really funny. But if I did that, it would menace me for years to come. Kind of like a phantom. No. Like a phantom menace.
So you've met this guy.
I met him too.
You both met him.
Mm-hmm.
I have not met George Lucas. Does he talk very like that, or was he nice, or what was he like?
He was very nice and quiet, actually.
Yes, very quiet.
Very quiet to himself, and then he looked at me and said, "Can you hurry it up? I want to go watch the Indy race."
Oh. There you go. Cool.
George Lucas said to me, "Stop following me everywhere I go. I'm getting a court order against you. Just stop."
Okay. Were you living in the bushes then?
Yes,
Okay.
outside his mansion. United Artists gave Lucas a 2-film development deal. The 2 films were American Graffiti, a coming-of-age comedy set in 1962. There you go, James. The 60s are mentioned. Where cars drove up and down a street a lot, and the deal also included an untitled space fantasy film, probably going to be the Flash Gordon in some shape or form. Here's what Lucas said on his failed attempt to make the Flash Gordon-style movie.
I wanted to make a Flash Gordon movie with all the trimmings, but I couldn't obtain the rights to the characters. So I began researching and went right back and found where Alex Raymond, who had done the original Flash Gordon comic strips and newspapers, had got his idea from. I discovered that he got his inspiration from the works of Edgar Rice Burroughs, who was the author of Tarzan, and especially from his John Carter of Mars series books. I read through that series, then found that what had sparked Burroughs off was a science fantasy called Gulliver on Mars, written by Edwin Arnold and published in 1905. That was the first story in this genre that I had been able to trace. Jules Verne had got pretty close, I suppose, but he never had a hero battling against space creatures or having adventures on another planet. A whole new genre developed from that idea.
Director Francis Ford Coppola, who had accompanied Lucas in trying to buy the Flash Gordon rights, was quoted in 1999 as saying,
Bibbidi bobbidi boo. George was very depressed because he had just come back and they wouldn't sell him Flash Gordon. Not even sell him Flash like the detergent, but Flash Gordon. And he says,
Is he
well,
ever one of us?
I'll just invent my own. But the question is, once he was saying this, was he drinking his own wine?
Probably not.
No, not yet. He was
yet.
probably still working on The Godfather.
Lucas envisioned his own space opera and called it The Star Wars. But first he had to make The American Graffiti, so he shelved the Star Wars concept for the next 2 years.
The reason I'm making Star Wars is that I want to give young people some sort of faraway, exotic environment for their imaginations to run around in. I have a strong feeling about interesting kids in space exploration. I want them to want it. I want them to get beyond the basic stupidities of the moment and think about colonizing Venus and Mars. And the only way it's going to happen is to have some dumb kid fantasize about it, to get his ray gun, jump in his ship, and run off with this Wookiee into outer space. It's our only hope, in a way.
He actually did say dumb kid. That quote wasn't modified like the last one.
So he made, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So Lucas began writing the script in January of 1973. He would spend 8 hours a day, 5 days a week writing on it. On a Saturday and Sunday, he would play with his Flash Gordon action figures and cry or watch TV specials of cloning or Wars of Cloning Wars. His process involved inventing odd names and then assigning them to possible characterizations. Lucas would discard many of these by...
I may have put in a little Star Wars Easter eggs here and there.
Yes. Lucas would discard many of these. All right, for the 5th attempt. Lucas would discard many of these by the time the final script was written, including the names Poopy Pickup 6, Derpy, and the Ping Ding Dongus.
Those may or may have been made.
Yes.
Except for Derpy.
Yes, Derpy.
Those names we may or may not have made up on our own. He did include several names and places in the final script of his sequences. He revived other decades later, which he revoked in his prequels trilogies. He used the initial names and ideas to compile a 2-page synopsis titled Journey of the Wheels, which he told the tale of training in the apprentice CJ as a Jedi Bendu,
Jedi Bendu.
Space Commander. He was trained by no other than the legendary Mace Windu.
No.
Mace Windy.
Oh,
Mace
Windy. Oh, not Mace Windu. Sorry, I got excited. I got real Star Wars. Mace Windy. Jedi
real.
Bendu, Mace Windy.
That wasn't made up.
Lucas thought his story might be too difficult to understand, so he narrowed it down to a 13-page overview. He once again titled it The Star Wars, keeping into play his love of the Determiners. Determiners?
Yes. Determiners.
Not Dementors. I got Harry Potter on us right now. So
Get your
United
soul out of this script.
Yes, exactly. United Artists said there was no way to budget the film. So Lucas and producer Gary Kurtz walked across the street to Universal Pictures, the studios that financed American Graffiti. Universal Pictures said that the film was a little strange and too spacey, and Luke Skywalker would end up just being the Joker one day. They told George to stick to the strengths of making movies about cars, and they drove up and down streets in the same direction on a road for an hour and 53 minutes. I was about to say 33 minutes.
And that's when George Lucas said, I've always been an outsider to Hollywood types. They think I do weirdo films.
And he did. Just think THX
1138
with the longest title ever. Kurtz just figured that Lou Westerman, the studio's head, wasn't down with science fiction and didn't think it had much of a future, and probably couldn't sell $99 billion worth of toys to go along with the film. To sell toys, you needed films like Apocalypse Now.
To which Lucas stated, my main reason for making it was to give young people an honest, wholesome fantasy life. The kind my generation had. We had westerns, pirate movies, all kinds of great things. Now they have the $6 Million Man and Kojak. Where are the romance, the adventure, and the fun that used to be in practically every movie made?
Now, George, I love you, but one, you quoted 2 TV shows. Mm-hmm. And what's wrong with the $6 Million Man?
Exactly, he was cool. And also, like, right now...
He was broken, but we could fix him.
The quote right here. So right now, we have pirate movies. We've had Western movies.
Yeah.
We have adventure movies. So basically...
I get Kojak, why he's upset with Kojak. I mean, how do you trust a detective who sucks on a lollipop all day and is lucky to solve a crime? All right, I'll give you that. If you're going to question anything, you should go with a great TV show like The Greatest American Hero.
I love The Greatest American Hero.
Yeah, I know, but would you have read the instruction manual to know how to properly utilize your suit?
No.
No, you would have pressed buttons.
You know you would too.
It's absolutely true.
Kurtz replied, they are just lumping our science fiction movies into every other science fiction movie out there. Just because it's set in space and full of science and fiction doesn't mean it's like the rest. Even though we were inspired by all the rest. Okay, I see your point, but one day you will see that the Death Star waffle makers... Sorry. One day you will see we will sell Death Star waffle makers, and then you'll be sorry. I don't have a waffle maker. The Star Wars waffle maker.
I don't
think I have actually any Star Wars cooking utensils. Actually, I lie. I have the measuring cups.
Okay.
Too.
I feel like the waffle maker is one of those things that you kind of need.
I have an Avengers one.
Does it make it as the A?
Yes. I'm just ashamed. I wish it kind of made like the hammer of Thor or like Hulk in the waffles, but no, it's just an A.
Or the wing of Captain America's head.
Or maybe the bow and arrow of Hawkeye.
Infinity Stones. You're just like
I don't know.
The wing of. I'm just like.
I just try to think of the weirdest thing you could make a waffle out of.
You could make it out of Hawkeye's eye mask from the comic books, but not the MCU.
You could make it...
that mask was awesome.
Yeah.
Hawkeye's original costume is phenomenal.
But it would look really kind of camp on screen, I think.
No, you can't. And I get why you change it. But the original comic book costume is so great. It fits the Archer theme.
Yeah, I guess. It's purple.
And black. The studios were also concerned with the potentially high budget the film might have. Being set in space, with spaceships and space aliens and designer Jedi robes, duh, Lucas and Kurtz pitched the film as a low-budget, Roger Corman-style design. That's really smart. Really smart. Death Race 2000, why not? Roger Corman was the king of low-budget bad films. Yeah. They figured the budget would never be more than $8 to $10 million, This was considered low budget by Hollywood standards at the time.
Still considered low budget.
That's considered extremely low budget right now.
But I'm surprised that was considered low budget in 1977.
That's actually really, really, really true right there.
Yeah.
I figured that would be a little higher, like mid to high budget,
Yeah.
considering.
Yeah, definitely.
So the next day, they walked down the street, whistling to the Walt Disney Productions office. Yes, there you go.
They were whistling the theme song of Star Wars.
No, they didn't have that yet.
Oh, okay.
They were going yeah. Disney said there were no parts for mice or dogs that walked on two legs, so that would be a big fat no. Lucas and Kurtz didn't give up because, they didn't want to give up, and this is a real fact and not made up fact that Chris has made up.
Yes.
You're going to think we made it up, but we swear we didn't. Lucas and Kurtz didn't give up. We know that because we just said that before, that they didn't give up. But they still haven't given up quite yet. Because they showed...
Never give up.
No, they didn't. They didn't want to give up. They didn't give up on anything. Because the script, when they showed it to a couple people, the people were quoted saying, yeah, that could be a good idea. Maybe you should do it. We're not sure. Yeah, maybe.
That's exactly it. That's why they didn't give up. Because some people gave them a mediocre okay.
Yeah, that's... Yeah.
I mean, you get the mediocre okay. Why not keep going for
That's
it?
right. They're
Because just remember, somewhere somebody approved 5 movies of Sharks in a Tornado.
yes, and I love them. Well, the first 3.
The first 3, yes. But somebody approved that and said, that's a good idea. Let's make that into a movie. So always remember, if somebody gives you a mediocre, hey, that sounds like a decent idea, keep striving for it. Because somewhere, somebody's really going to love it.
Yes, and you could build a dynasty on it. So then Lucas and Kurtz got into a cab and rode 2 blocks south to 20th Century Fox and made a deal with Alan Ladd Jr., the head of the studio, by imitating R2-D2 noises to him while he was trying to use his private gold-plated bathroom. Ladd didn't quite understand why a trash can-looking thing would make such noises, but he liked Lucas and gave him $150,000 to write and direct the film.
Lucas would end up writing. Oh, wait, that's his JL script, because I can't read my own name.
Because JL and James look so much alike.
Well, I saw a J, and I kind of already knew it was coming up. We can take over, because apparently Lucas would end up writing.
Stealing my thunder. Lucas would end up writing 4 different screenplays for Star Wars. And by May of 1974, he would have a rough draft that included ideas like the Sith, the Death Star, and a general by the name of Anakin Starkiller.
Yes.
Later, Starkiller would end up as an adolescent boy. Next was added Han Solo, a Corellian smuggler that looked like a large green-skinned monster with gills, and Chewbacca, who looked like Lucas's Alaskan Malamute dog named Indiana. Indiana's namesake would end up as the namesake for Indiana Jones.
Did you just read that like
Indiana.
His face would say it?
Yes, I did. We named the dog Indiana. My favorite one of all those movies.
What's his face? What was
Sean Connery.
Sean Connery, yeah.
Greatest James Bond ever. Harrison Ford clearly enjoyed playing the trigger-happy Han Solo. Ford said of his character, I always knew that I couldn't get the girl. Han knows if he gets the girl, it will just be a one-night stand.
Hi, this is Chris from Podcast 42, and let me tell you about my friend Ben. Bitter Ben has been bitter since before he was born. He was so bitter about being removed from his mom's warm stomach that he cried for 10 straight years. His bitterness was forged in the cold dungeon of South Dakota, where the weather taught him what bitter cold was. It wasn't until he started working in customer service that his true calling was to write about and share all the bitterness with all other people in the form of Ben's Bitter Blog. If you ever feel like you need to vent, hop on over to his blog where you can share all your bitterness in a safe and bitter environment. You can also check out his Facebook page where he posts additional content when the blog just isn't enough. He's also on social at Instagram, Google+, and Friendster. You can catch his blog at bensbitterblog.com. On Facebook, just search for Ben's Bitter. And on Instagram, Ben's Bitter Blog.
Yeah, it was true about that. In the second draft of the Star Wars in 1974, the Force was also introduced as a mystical energy field. Lucas got rid of Princess Leia and turned Luke into a girl.
You're a girl.
You're a girl.
That explains a lot of the whiny.
Yeah, and also the ray of sunshine. A month later, he reinstalled Luke's gender and decided to make Leia his twin. Well, Luke had several brothers as well as his father, who was now Anakin Starkiller, not Skywalker.
Not yet.
Not yet.
This draft also was the first to introduce the concept of Jedi turning onto the dark side. Now, the third draft in August 1st, 1975 was titled The Star Wars from the Adventures of Luke Skywalker. This third draft had most of the elements of the final plot and changed Luke's dad from living to dead and got rid of his brothers and introduced Ben Kenobi.
You notice he's trying to drag out that title again.
Yeah, he wants super long titles.
He wants to fill a whole marquee so no other movie
I think
can.
he wants to use every
It's
letter
actually
in
a very smart plan.
Do you think?
I do. I think if you can fill, like at the time when you had to put up the title of a movie on the marquee, if the only title you see is for that one movie, it's either going to make everybody want to see your movie or they're going to absolutely hate it.
Yeah. Especially if he's going up against Jaws.
Yeah.
Which takes up what? One corner.
But if he had made Jaws, it would have been Jaws, the killer shark from the ocean that swam and ate people on the beach of New York City, or wherever it took place. It wasn't New York.
Amity Island.
Yeah, that's it. The fourth draft on January 1st, 1976 was titled The Adventures of Luke Starkiller, as taken from the Journal of the Wills, Saga 1, The Star Wars. All right, there we go.
Honestly,
That could be the worst title yet.
So it would then become the TAOLSATFTJOTWS1.
Yes.
That's how you would put it on the internet. Oh no, --TSW.
Yes. He still likes The Star
Yeah,
Wars.
the Star Wars.
20th Century Fox stamped its approval on it with a budget of $8.25 million, and Lucas was able to also protect his rights to sequels and merchandising profits.
Smart.
Genius.
Yes.
Genius.
At
The
the
merchandising
time.
right there.
Who knew?
But you know what? Who else? I know we're probably going to go into it later on. But the other genius in the merchandise world, Hans
Gruber?
No, Harrison Ford.
No, I know nothing about this.
You don't know anything about this?
Mm-mm.
Harrison Ford, his Han Solo stuff is all merchandise. All of that stuff is his. That was a
Really?
part of his contract.
Huh.
He said, "I will do this movie, but only if I get the royalties from the merchandise." So that's why there's
Smart.
so little Han Solo stuff.
Ah, okay. Lucas said of the final script,
What finally emerged through the many drafts of the script has obviously been influenced by science fiction and action adventure I've read and seen. And I've seen a lot of it. I'm trying to make a classic sort of genre picture, a classic space fantasy, in which all the influences are working together. There are certain traditional aspects of the genre I wanted to keep and help perpetuate in Star Wars.
Don't you mean the Star Wars?
Star Wars.
During the filming, he changed Luke's name from Starkiller to Skywalker, which is kind of obvious when the story was about blowing up a star, and then dropped the from the Star Wars, but added another 5 million words. He would also continue to tweak the script during filming, including adding the death of Obi-Wan Kenobi after he realized he served no purpose in the ending of the film. It was also rumored that Alec Guinness once hid Lucas's unfinished Kit Kat bar from him as a joke. Lucas wanted to create...
Bastard.
I know.
that's why he fired him.
Yeah, he said, "No more Alec Guinness. Your namesakes is just
You
wonderful."
joker,
Yeah.
Sir Alec Guinness, you big gigantic joker.
I knew I should have made Peter Cushing Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Lucas wanted to create a fresh prop prototypes and set that had never been envisaged before in the science fiction films. He brought in many different people to help him with the look and feels of his universe. Lucas described to his team that he wanted to use a used future in which all devices, ships, and buildings looked aged and dirty instead of the stereotypical new and plastic and shiny kind of stuff that you see in every modern science fiction movie. The Star Wars sets were designed to look inhabited and run down.
Which is genius because that's how they would look.
And that's the truth.
Yeah.
And also, I've been to Tunisia where they filmed the first one.
Yeah.
And that, honestly, the whole country looks that way.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, it was the perfect setting, the dunes and stuff like that. You can see why they picked that. And also, it was dirt cheap to make kind of the movie. So, you know, it really was, they nailed it. Their location scout did a wonderful thing.
You're foreshadowing.
Yes.
I like foreshadowing.
Of all the sets used, the Millennium Falcon was the most difficult to build.
Still is.
Yeah. One of the new ones, they have it. They built it and they put gigantic trucks around it, so no one knew it was there.
Yes, but Google Maps screwed that up for everybody.
That's awesome.
And when I last was in London, I was 3 weeks late to see it.
Yeah.
When they had it out and about, because my old man saw it popping out of the studio.
Did he take a picture?
Yeah, and that was when he met Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill,
Oh, nice.
in the grocery store.
Of course.
I know. He went, "I know you," and he said, "I don't know why I know you," to Mark Hamill.
Was he buying a Kit Kat bar?
No, he was buying something, a sandwich or something, because the studio is right next to a grocery store where my dad goes.
Oh, okay.
And my dad was like, "I know you," and he said, "Yes." He said, "I don't know where from." He said, "Star Wars." My dad went, "Oh, you're that guy." I
This
took a
seems
picture
like
of
a
it.
Gary story.
Yeah, and it was pretty much a Gary story, but my dad took a picture and sent it to me and my brother, who went, "Are you freaking kidding us?" No. He was like, "Yeah."
I bet Mark Hamill was like, you know me.
Yeah. But he was really nice about it. He wasn't the jerk. He could have been like one of those
Yeah.
celebrities, but he was really nice and
He seems like a cool guy in real life.
You've met him as well, JL.
Yes, I showed him I have a Joker tattoo, like the playing card of the DC character.
Yeah.
And he was really awesome and told me how much he loved my tattoo while impersonating the Joker.
Nice.
He did his Joker voice to tell me how much he loved it.
For those who
Star
don't
Wars-
know, Mark Hamill's the Joker in the animated series.
Yeah, his last one was The Killing Joke.
Yeah, the Killing Joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a good one to watch.
So that was a highlight of getting to see Mark Hamill, is that it was like Star Wars and Batman all at once.
Nice. They wanted the interior of the Falcon to look like that of a submarine. They used scrapped airplane metal and broken down jet engines. All in all, they would build around 30 sets consisting of planets, starships, caves, control rooms, cantinas, and the Death Star corridors.
Hang on, that might be copyrighted.
The remix of that is really good. I could listen to it all day. And the dubstep version of the Cantina song. It would take up 9 sound stages in all. A second location would house the Rebel Hangar. Leia's earmuffs hairstyle was inspired by photographs taken by Edward S. Curtis of Native Americans and photos of Pancho Villa's Rebel William. I was a little afraid of it, Fisher says. We need Nicole here to do the voice. And how I was going to look in it. You can do the
I can't
voice?
do no, actually, because I couldn't impersonate.
I was a little afraid of it.
That sounds
Yeah, like,
that sounds like a porno movie.
Yes.
I know, that's usually how Nicole sounds.
On the other side of the coin, Cinnabon was excited for the film's release.
In 1975, Lucas decided to form his own visual effects company called Industrial Light and Magic. ILM, another long name because, George Lucas doesn't like short stuff.
I'm surprised he didn't call it the Industrial Light and Magic.
After discovering the 27th Century's Fox visual effects department had been disbanded, ILM began its works on the Star Wars in warehouses in Van Nuys, California. I don't know if I said that wrong, California. But
I have no idea
Van
where that
Nuys,
is,
I
so we'll
think.
just go with it.
most of the visual effects used pioneering digital motion controlled photography, which credited the illusion of size by employing smaller models and slowly moving cameras. So this was kind of a really breakthrough thing, and this is kind of one of the ones that a lot of still gets used right now.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Disney cameras and how they did this. This guy he had some great ideas.
Yeah,
behind this.
basically they took stop motion and made it less stop motion-y.
Yeah.
So good, though.
Lucas wanted his film to have a bizarre, surreal look to, with a strange overexposure of colors and lots of shadows. Originally, Luke's home planet of Tatooine was supposed to be like a jungle planet, but after a trip to the Philippines to scout filming locations, the idea of spending months there made Lucas itchy, and they changed it to a desert planet because he didn't want to get itchy.
That's not something we made up. That's true.
True story.
Which Lucas said of the change. Secretly, the reason why we changed locations was that I couldn't find my pith helmet. You can't shoot in the jungle without a pith helmet.
Wait
the
for
truth.
it. Wait for
I
it.
think my wife had hit it. She hated that helmet. It was her way of revenge against it. It was her. Revenge of the pith.
That we may have made up.
Maybe.
That may not be a real quote. I'm not sure. It is the internet.
That was his first wife, so it could be true. The revenge of the pith.
It was so hard to get a Revenge of the Sith pun in there.
But it was so worth it.
Was it? Principal photography began on March 22nd, 1976, or in James's time, it'd be 1966.
Which when England won the World Cup.
Okay.
Last.
Yes, and the only time.
In the how you say that?
Tunisian desert.
Tunisian desert.
I was going to say Tunisian.
Do you know what
That's what I was
Tunisia
gonna
is?
say. Huh?
Do you know what Tunisia is?
It's in a desert.
Yes. Any ideas? It's in North Africa.
Oh, good. That was going to be my guess, too. And I didn't want to say it because I thought it sounded stupid.
It's in North Africa.
Okay. But fell behind schedule in the first week of shooting due to malfunctioning props and electronic breakdowns.
See, it doesn't just happen during Jaws.
No. Also, a very rare rainstorm struck the country, which is hilarious that they tried to film this thing and a rainstorm happened in the desert. That further disrupted filming, of course. Abnormal radio signals caused by the desert sands made the radio-controlled R2-D2 models run out of control. To top it off, and this is my favorite fact of all time, Libya, a neighbor, had concerns that the sand crawler, which was based on NASA-designed vehicles, was part of a secret military weapons buildup on its border.
True story.
To which George Lucas said they actually had to come and inspect the sandcrawler to verify that it was not a secret weapon.
That is hilarious. I can just see Libyan officials looking at the sandcrawler.
Yeah, going, what the hell is this?
What is this? Is this going
This
to
was
bomb us?
Gaddafi as well. This was his era.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I forgot about that. He was probably super paranoid. He probably thought just rocks thrown over the border was an attack. When actor Anthony Daniels wore the C-3PO outfit for the first time, the left leg piece shattered down through the plastic covering his left foot, stabbing him. He also could not see through the costume's eyes, which was covered with gold to prevent corrosion.
Which is hilarious because there's like a history of feet.
R2, help me, you bucket of bolts. I can't see.
No. Anthony Daniels is quoted saying, because, he talks very slowly. He talks very clearly, and he also sounds a little bit whiny all the time. If you've ever met or heard Anthony Daniels, which I once did at a Star Wars weekend, and I was so bored.
Yeah.
It was like, I saw a chair one day, and it said Anthony Daniels on the back of it. I was very excited about that. I never got to sit in the chair because I could never sit down. I have a terrible leaning board, a kind of medieval thing with arms that allowed me to recline about 70 degrees, which was very little use at all, because the weight still went down to your ankles. I wore ordinary nylon leotards and tights and some very nasty little sailing shoes from the Libby Whites, which is Lily Whites in London. I wore one pair throughout the film, and they got very battered. I think the gold shoes under the gold legs, which went up the one pair of trousers, made me fairly thick, plastic bolted together at the hips. It had a rather large crotch, which I think George liked to define as his space eroticism.
You can Google pictures of Anthony Daniels. It's kind of like a famous picture of him on this leaning board, and it's
his pouty
hilarious.
face.
Yeah, I don't blame him.
Yeah.
Stormtroopers wore all-in-one black leotards, over which the front and back of the body clasped together. The upper and lower parts of the arms were held together with black elastic. The belts held suspenders that attached to the legs. They wore ordinary domestic rubber gloves and black boots painted white with shoe dye.
After completing 2.5 weeks of filming in the desert, the cast and crew moved into the more controlled environment of Elstree Studios near London. James, you know where that is?
It's by my house. And do you know what else was filmed at Elstree? Moby Dick, the first one.
With Gregory Peck?
Yes. And they also did most of the Bond films come out of that studio. It also has a Lucas soundstage now. I might have tried to get in there last time I was there.
I would too for a Bond film. Yeah. Problems arose at the studio, however, due to strict British working conditions that filming had to finish by 5:30 p.m. unless Lucas was in the middle of a scene.
Break time! No, I'm not done yet.
Yep. Also, despite Lucas's efforts, his crew had little interest in the film and did not take the project seriously. Most of the crew considered the project a children's film. Actor Kenny Baker later confessed that he thought the film would be a failure. Harrison Ford found it strange that there's a princess with weird buns in her hair, and he called Chewbacca a giant in a monkey suit.
I wish there was sound clips of this, especially because Harrison Ford is one weird cat.
Yeah, I can imagine be like, I just hung out with this giant in a monkey suit.
Even if we tried making up some quote like that, it seems like something he would say in an interview.
Exactly. The moon Yavin 4, which acted as the rebel base in the film, was filmed in the Mayan temples of Tikal, Guatemala. Lucas selected the location as a potential filming site after seeing a poster of it hanging at a travel agency while he was filming in Britain. While filming in Tikal, the crew paid locals with a 6-pack of beer to watch over the camera equipment for several days.
And that was my first job.
You would give up beer?
No, he was the one to let you know the equipment.
Oh, he was totally
wow,
paying
okay.
me with 6 packs of beer.
He was like, you stay there, small child, and watch this.
I put you in the American role. I'm sorry, I didn't put you in the Guatemalan role. Lucas rarely spoke to the actors, who felt that he expected too much of them while providing little direction. His directions to the actors usually consisted of the words faster and more intense. Kurt stated that
It happened a lot where he would just say, let's try that again, a little bit faster. And that was about it. The only instruction he'd give to anybody. And lots of actors don't mind, but some actors really need a lot of pampering and a lot of feedback. If they don't get it, they get paranoid and they might not be doing a good job and then start crying and, everything else ensues. For example...
No, I am your father. I'm Darth Vader, by the way.
Yeah.
Let's try it again a little bit faster.
No, I am your father.
Let's try it again a little bit faster.
No, I am your father.
Perfect.
Lucas was getting flack from the studio over the rising budget and complex screenplay rewrites. Gary Kurtz says, we proceeded to pick a production plan. Wow, that is a mouthful there. We proceeded to pick a production of plan and do more on the final budget. Yes, the British Art Department and looked for locations in North Africa and kind of pulled together something that was obvious that 8 million people wasn't going to do. They only had to approve 8 million. $8 million, not pounds, because that would be, like $8 bajillion then. I think the exchange rate was about 2 for 1. It would have been like 16 million pounds.
For the next 2 weeks, Lucas didn't do anything but try to put together a new film budget. This put the production behind schedule.
That seems like a great idea to spend 2 weeks doing that.
Yeah,
No, not at all. Because that made the studio very unhappy. They told Lucas and company this: you need to finish this within a week, or production will be shut down.
We came up with this budget of 20 million trillion.
8 million tops.
How about 12 million?
How about 8 millions? We're going to stand strong on this.
How about 9.8 million?
Okay, that's fine.
Cool.
The crew then split into 3 units, led by Lucas, Kurtz, and production supervisor Robert Watts. Under the new system, the project was able to meet the studio's deadline. During the remaining production, the cast attempted to make Lucas laugh or smile, as he often appeared depressed. At one point, the project became so demanding that Lucas was diagnosed with hypertension and exhaustion. Post-production was equally stressful due to increasing pressure from 20th Century Fox. That I'm pulling a James.
Yay!
And to add on top that,
See? It's great because once you start, you can't stop.
no. And to add on top of that, Mark Hamill had a car accident which left his face visibly scarred. Reshoots became very tricky as no cars were used in space, so no car accident could be added into the script. Star Wars was originally slated for release on Christmas 1976. However, due to production delays, it pushed the film's release back to the summer of 1977.
In the editing room, John Gibson's cut of the film was deemed a complete disaster. The first edit was completely different than the one eventually released by 30 to 40%. Lucas decided to replace Gibson with Paul Hirsch, Richard Chew, and his then-wife, Marcia Lucas. The biggest complaint was the pacing of the film making it lethargic. One of the biggest pieces of the film to end up on the cutting room floor was Luke Skywalker's early life on Tatooine. It was a depiction of his everyday world among his friends and introduced us to his best friend, Biggs Darklighter, who departs to join the rebellion. Before editing began, the actor who got the job of playing Biggs Darklighter was quoted as saying,
I'm so excited to be a part of this film. This is my big break. I'm sure once this film is released, everyone will be a big Darklighter fans, and I will be super famous.
It was thought by removing these scenes it would make the story less confusing. Chew stated,
In the first 5 minutes, we were hitting everybody with more information than they could handle. There were too many storylines to keep straight. The robots and the princess, Vader, Luke. So we simplified it by taking out the Luke and Biggs relationship.
After the film's release, the actor who played Biggs Darklighter was quoted as,
I just want to die.
That would suck so bad, especially how big this film had become.
Yep.
Everyone thought it was pretty much American Graffiti in space, but with less Wolfman Jack and more Wookiee.
Yeah!
Wolfman Jack. Lucas then stated that he wanted to move the narrative focus to C-3PO and R2-D2, saying,
At the time, to have the first half hour of the film be mainly about robots was a bold idea.
Which I agree with, because you think back to that first 30 minutes and you go, if if you were just watching this, you're like, it's going to be a story about 2 droids, and that was kind of.
And then you watch all the movies, like the first 6, and you go, "Wow, this is really about 1.5 droids."
Yep. And now we're up to 3.5 droids.
Nah, 2.5.
With the ball and the bucket, the trash.
The ball,
can.
the bucket, and the one that keeps getting blown up.
Yeah.
2.5 droids and a baby is my favorite movie.
Ted Danson was phenomenal in that.
And so was his mustache.
That's Tom Selleck.
Exactly. I was trying to set it up, and you took the bait. Industrial Light and Magic was struggling to achieve unprecedented special effects. The company had spent half its budgets on 4 shots that leakers deemed as poo-poo.
They're poo-poo.
Poo-poo!
It was rumored that the workers of ILM lacked discipline, like me and my speech, forcing Lucas into intervening frequently and to ensure that they were on schedule. ILM was facing with getting a year's worth done within 6 months. Lucas inspired ILM by showing them old war films of aerial dogfights which enhanced the pacing of the scenes.
Sound designer Ben Burt had created a library of sounds that Lucas called the organic soundtrack. Blaster sounds were a modified recording of a steel cable being struck under tension.
Boing.
Boing, boing.
Pew! The lightsaber sound effect was a combination of the hum of idling interlock motors in an aged movie projector and the interference caused by a television set. This sound was actually found on accident. Chewbacca's growls are the recorded and combined sounds made by dogs, bears, lions, tigers, a young Paris Hilton, and walruses. Makes total sense. Lucas and Burt created the robotic voice of R2-D2 by filtering their voices through an electronic synthesizer.
Womp womp.
So they pretty much used all of Peter Frampton's first album. Darth Vader's breathing was achieved by breathing through the mask of a scuba regulator implanted with a microphone.
In February 1977. What? You just made a turkey noise.
That's right.
That doesn't sound like Darth Vader.
No, but that's what it sounds like when you don't have the regulator and you just get the scuba from Jaws.
I get it now. In February 1977, Lucas screened an early cut of the film for Fox executives, including several director friends, along with Roy Thomas and Howard Chaykin of
Chaykin, who is awesome. He's a very nice guy.
Okay.
Yeah, I met him at MegaCon this past year. Insanely nice.
And probably old now.
He is.
Okay. Of Marvel Comics, who were preparing a Star Wars comic book. So somebody must have believed in this project for all this whining in the beginning of the script.
Yes, Marvel Comics, because they knew they could make comic books out of it, and they would get everybody to read it.
Yeah. The cut had a different crawl from the finished version and used Prowless's voice for Darth Vader, which was a mistake. It also lacked most special effects. Hand-drawn arrows took the place of blaster beams, and when the Millennium Falcon fought TIE fighters, the film cut to footage of World War II dogfights.
Wow.
I would be embarrassed to screen that.
Yeah, you'd be like,
Unless they knew going in that this wasn't a finished product.
Yeah.
The reactions of the directors present, such as Brian De Palma, disappointed Lucas. Spielberg, who claimed to have been the only person in the audience to have enjoyed the film, believed that the lack of enthusiasm was due to the absence of finished special effects. Lucas later said of his peers that at least those bitches were honest. However, the studio executives loved the film. They were quoted as saying, "This is the greatest film I've ever seen," and threw a couple more $1 million Lucas's way to help him finish it.
But the project was still $2 million over budget. Lucas was forced to make numerous artistic compromises to complete Star Wars. Lucas had planned to rework a confrontation scene between Han Solo and Jabba the Hutt in Mos Eisley Spaceport by compositing a stop-motion animated model of Jabba to replace the actor Declan Mulholland. But with time and money running out, Lucas reluctantly decided to cut the scene entirely. The sequence was later reinstated in the 1997 special edition with a computer-generated version of Jabba.
Don't you love that scene in the rerun, though? Because he steps on Jabba's tail.
That is probably the best part of that entire reworked scene, is the
they
computer-generated Jabba that with the reaction that you get.
Because they had to make him walk around it, and the only way they could move it was making him step on his tail, so that was the only way they could do it. So it was really...
I didn't notice that.
When I was a kid, it was on like one of the how they made the scene on a TV
It was a
show.
phenomenal CGI scene at the time.
Yeah. And it was like really well done, but you know, a lot of the other ones were like, whatever. So Lucasfilm hired Charles Lippincott as a marketing director for Star Wars. He didn't do a very good job, did he? The reason behind it being that 20th Century Fox gave little support for marketing beyond licensing T-shirts and posters. Lippincott secured deals with Marvel Comics for a comic book adaptation, and with Del Rey Books for novels. He also had an in at the San Diego Comic-Con, and the film was promoted heavily there.
Worried that Star Wars would be beaten out by other summer films such as Smokey and the Bandit, which is a pretty good film.
Yeah.
Burt Reynolds.
That's right. Bankable.
Good mustache.
Why wasn't he Han Solo?
That's a good question. He was too busy being Gator.
20th Century Fox moved the release date to May 25th, the Wednesday before Memorial Day. However, fewer than 40 theaters ordered the film to be shown. In response, the studio demanded that theaters order Star Wars as they wanted the eagerly anticipated film, The Other Side of Midnight.
Who everyone's heard of.
Yeah, I've never heard of it.
Nope.
I don't know that movie. While visiting the set of the Steven Spielberg film Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Lucas was sure Close Encounters would outperform the yet-to-be-released Star Wars at the box office. Spielberg disagreed and felt Star Wars would be the bigger hit. Lucas proposed they trade 2.5% of the profit on each other's films. Spielberg took the trade and still receives 2.5% of the profits from Star Wars.
Somebody lost out on that deal.
Which further proves he is the smartest man out there.
Star Wars debuted on Wednesday, May 25th, 1977 in fewer than 32 theaters, and 8 more on Thursday and Friday. It immediately broke box office records, effectively becoming one of the first blockbuster films, and Fox accelerated plans to broaden its release. Fox initially had doubts if Star Wars would emerge successful. The Other Side of Midnight was supposed to be the studio's big summer hit. Fox requested Mann's Charles... Because I'm thinking Charles Mann. I don't know why he's stuck in my head. Fox requested Mann's Chinese theater for the premiere. Fearing the film would fail, Lucas was making plans to be in Hawaii with his wife, Marcia. Having forgotten that the film would be opening that day, he spent most of Wednesday in the sound studio in Los Angeles. When Lucas went out for lunch with Marcia, they encountered a long line of people along the sidewalk leading to the Mann's Chinese theater, waiting to see the Star Wars.
The Star Wars.
The Star Wars.
Yes. He was still skeptical of the film's success despite the studio's enthusiastic reports. While in Hawaii, it was not until he watched Walter Cronkite's discussion on a gigantic crowds for Star Wars on CBS Evening News that Lucas realized he'd become very wealthy.
Francis Ford Coppola, who
I
needed...
don't have a name. That's why, because it's just...
Stop stealing my lines!
He fucked me with the script.
Oh, oops, sorry.
Stop stealing my lines!
I was like, this was the longest parody ever.
You get all the lines. I'm lucky just to imitate George Lucas.
You did a great job.
Thank you. Francis Ford Coppola, who needed money to finish Apocalypse Now, sent a telegram to Lucas's hotel asking for funding.
That's hilarious.
Even technical crew members, such as model makers, were asked for autographs, and cast members became instant household names. When Harrison Ford visited a record store to buy an album, enthusiastic fans tore half his shirt off.
I bet he hated that. I bet he hated instant fame.
He had to. No wonder he wanted his character killed off. The film was a huge success for 20th Century Fox and was credited for reinvigorating the company. Within 3 weeks of the film's release, the studio's stock price had doubled to a record high. Prior to 1977's 20th Century Fox greatest annual profits were $37 million, while in 1977, the company broke that record by posting a profit of $79 million.
Jeez, wow.
Although the film's cultural neutrality helped it to gain international success, the studio became anxious during the premiere in Japan. After the screening, the audience was silent, leading him to fear that the film would be unsuccessful. It was later told by local contacts that in Japan, silence was the greatest honor to a film, and the subsequent strong box office return confirmed its popularity.
You know why they were afraid of the premiere in Japan?
No.
Because they thought they would accidentally put in the first cut of the film with all the World War II dogfights. They didn't want to give them the wrong one.
Do you know what? As well,
that would have been awful. Could you imagine if they put in the World War II dogfights?
But also, have you ever seen the Japanese film posters and Japanese merchandise is some of the best stuff they did for Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I'm so jealous they got some of the coolest stuff
Honestly,
out there.
if you look at any of Japanese promotions and all that, they really do get some of the best posters, advertisements, everything.
That's because Japan is enthusiastic, unlike America. America's like, yeah, what's next? And Japan like eats everything up.
They do, and I love the enthusiasm.
Yeah, so I want to move to Japan.
It's really a true thing. Like, if you're any type of person and you hit it big in Japan, you're pretty much set for life.
Yeah.
Because they love it all, and they can be your fan base for life.
I want to live in Japan.
Me
but
too.
I'm not going to a cat cafe.
Meow.
No.
Star Wars made an unprecedented second opening at Mann's Chinese Theater on August 3rd, 1977. Thousands of people attended a ceremony in which C-3PO, R2-D2, and Darth Vader placed their footprints in the theater's forecourt. At that time, Star Wars was playing in 1,096 theaters in the United States. A big jump from 40.
Yep.
It was less than 40.
It was 32.
Oh, that's true, yeah. Approximately 60 theaters played the film continuously for over a year, which would not happen today, no matter how big it was.
Nope.
In 1978, Lucasfilm distributed birthday cake posters to those theaters for special events on May 25th, the one-year anniversary of the film's release. Star Wars premiered in the UK on December 27th, 1977. As of July 2017, the movie generated $775.4 million US at the box office worldwide.
Wow.
To quote James, but change it a little bit, numbers are hard. Mm-hmm. Favorite Star Wars characters among adults in the United States as of December 2017, and JL has issues with this.
I do.
Tied at number 1 is Princess Leia and Yoda.
I don't have a problem with that. I get the Princess Leia.
Yeah.
Especially right now.
Yeah. Although Yoda, I don't know.
No.
People love Yoda.
I don't get it.
But then Yoda, like, he was great because of the whole concept behind him, but I don't think he'd make my top 10.
No, he wouldn't.
No, I like Yoda, but he's not like one of my all-time favorites.
Yep.
He's not my favorite at all. Then Han Solo,
My favorite.
Luke Skywalker,
Yep,
R2-D2,
makes sense.
Chewbacca, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Darth Vader, Rey, Kylo Ren, and Finn.
All right, so here's my problem with the list.
Okay,
Where is Boba Fett?
Yeah, but then
Boba Fett is like the most popular secondary character who does nothing in the entire trilogy.
Can he even be called a secondary character, though? Isn't he more like a
third,
fourth
tier
or fifth?
He's such a minor character,
but he has such a loyal fan base.
Yeah, but Boba Fett, you think there is a lot more Boba Fett merchandise out there than there is Finn merchandise?
Right.
Yeah.
Also, where's BB-8? He's very popular.
Oh yeah, every little kid.
Every kid loves BB-8. Where is that on here?
But then it's definitely for that list. I don't know. Give me your top 3, Jail.
My top 3 characters? My top 3, Boba Fett, Kylo Ren, and Han Solo.
Chris?
You're going to laugh. Boba, Han, and IG-88.
Yeah! Bosk is my number 4.
So I'm a traditionalist.
I love the bounty hunters.
But
so do I. I love the bounty hunters. And honestly, I'm still waiting to hear why Darth Vader looked at Boba Fett specifically and said, no disintegrations. So if there is a Boba Fett standalone movie, I want to know why he specifically looked at him and said no disintegrations.
And then, I don't know, because it's always a tough one with me because Star Wars is, but I always, I'm a droids. So I think R2-D2 would make my top 3. I don't know how in particular 3. He'd be up there. It would be Vader because he still, to this day, has a little bit of intimidation for me. Mm-hmm. Even being a giant-ass man that I am, I'm still always a little bit intimidated by Vader. It's always that just impeding kind of thing.
He's evil.
And then I think as well, I just like Luke. I always kind of think the young kid making it and having like the rough time of life and then just coming out. And Luke was always the hero and always will be. And then my number 4 would be Finn. I love Finn. I generally,
you know who I actually really like? Captain Phasma.
Yeah, you're a Phasma. But the Phasma story is growing, and I feel that today we might find out more. And when this podcast,
I'm hoping because I really like Phasma, and I would like to see more from Phasma.
I'm wondering if we're getting more Phasma and Finn because I think both their parts were kind of.
I do, and I think they're very intertwined in a way. And I'm hoping that it'll be very, very good. Like the preview showed the little battle between them. I have expectations for that. And I want to see their interactions.
This is what I'm going to say right now. I still believe that Finn may be the Last Jedi.
I agree with you. I wholeheartedly agree with you.
I think Finn is going to
Because if you think about it, when they say The Force Awakens, Finn came out of whatever coma he was in as a stormtrooper, and he awoke that day.
I believe it's going to be...
Maybe the Force
a
really
Rey Finn...
woke him up.
Yeah, I believe it wasn't just a Rey lead. That's me. And now I'm getting goosebumps thinking about what we're going to go and do this evening. So
I know.
Well, somebody listening to this podcast a month later is going to be like, "You were so wrong," or they're going to be like, "You were really right."
I know.
And it doesn't matter whether we're right, wrong, whatever. Our little fan theories, they're just fan theories, and whether they prove to be true or false, it doesn't matter.
And how much you want to bet this is going to end on a cliffhanger?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gearing up because we're gearing up for something humongous. And the thing is as well, you think we only have to wait, being it's December 2017. We've only got 15 months. We're not going to go the 2-year cycle again. We're only going 15 months.
Really? I thought they're doing Han Solo next year.
We have got Han Solo next
We
year.
got Han Solo next year,
And then it's the
but
May,
they're gonna pull out Episode 9 really quick.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
and we're going. Who was confirmed director of 9? It was
J.J. Abrams, I believe.
So Abrams going
Yes.
back to it.
Yes, because Abrams was really upset that he didn't do this one because the moment he read the script, he said, shit, I should have stayed on board.
Really? Or is that just an internet rumor? Do you
No,
think?
No,
was him.
he's actually quoted as saying he really wished he stayed on board for this one.
And that was
And he was very happy for Rian Johnson to jump on board with it, and he was very, very upset he didn't stick on for this one.
Okay.
And I have met J.J. Abrams after you guys meeting everyone. I held the door open for him in California, and he said, "Thanks."
Yeah, you win that one.
And that was the month before. It was the September before The Force Awakens.
Did you yell at him for the ending of Lost?
No, I just kind of went, and then
The
I went,
ending of Lost, I will always blame some of the other writers for that one over him.
All right. Well, now that we've ended our Star Wars episode, let's rate
What
the
are we
beer.
rating the beer?
I enjoyed it. It was a good drinking beer.
I thought it was very good. Good flavor, very hoppy, nice citrus to it. I give it a total 6.
I did not like it at first sip, so I'm kind of liking this new way we're doing it because it grew on me throughout the show. I'm giving the label a 3. It's okay.
I'll go with you on that. The label is not the best.
And I'm going to actually give it a 4.
I'm going to agree with you on a 4 because it's nice. It's a nice beer. It's a drinkable beer. I think a 4 would be it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to say 4. Can I give my Star Wars crumpet rating?
Yes, please.
8 bajillion.
You haven't even seen it yet.
No, Star Wars.
Star Wars: A New Hope.
Star Wars.
Oh, this episode?
The episode, The Star Wars.
I think this episode is phenomenal.
I love this story just because of the actual, as we said, the build-up with the droids all the way through, the slapstick humor through to the kind of, the empowerment. It really just, as a one-off movie, you could watch this movie and just sit back and be like, that was a really good movie without having to go into any more trilogies.
What would you rate it if it was called The Adventures of Luke Starkiller as taken from the Journal of the Wills, Saga 1, The Star Wars?
I would like to see that fit on Netflix and how they would kind of shorten that down.
That's awesome.
I feel like we would still rate it the same, but as a title, we would probably rate the title a lot lower.
I don't know, but I think the name Star Wars. You hear Star Wars, it just the 2 syllables Star Wars.
All you need is that, the one thing I'll say about this episode, we did not talk about the music at all.
No.
One of the greatest scores, like everybody knows the Star Wars theme,
Yeah.
didn't talk about how that came about in any way.
And it's been hilarious because we were in my home the other day and Nicole and Kigley were here and they were watching something. And honestly, I was in the kitchen cooking and I heard the little like,
Duh.
and I was like, and it wasn't even that. It was just the twinkling in the background, very like, duh, 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 and then I honestly went Star Wars, and they were like, "How you heard 2 bars of music and you knew it?" And I was like, "Because it's ingrained in me."
Yeah.
Yep.
It is iconic. I don't know why I didn't put anything about the music in there.
We can go back.
Well, it's John Williams.
He can
and
have his
does
own
amazing.
episode, yeah.
John Williams could have his own episode because
Yeah.
he's done such great scores for so many great movies.
I'm impressed with the Force Awakens score because he made it similar yet different. Because I'm like, are we going to get the same? Not that I don't like the theme song,
No.
but are we going to get the same thing? But no, he tweaked it.
Do you know what's
and it
nice
was
about
different.
Force Awakens? We finally get to say Star Killer in a movie.
Well, we're getting close to end of time, so let's open up the Gmail real quick. You can contact us at podcast42show@gmail.com with any questions.
Remember, that's numbers
concerns.
4 and 2.
That's right. Good call on that. If you're going to contact us about any context, we do make things up, so don't freak out if it's not exactly 100% accurate.
Yeah, we're a parody of a parody.
Yes. Yeah. David Rice at betterrice@gmail.com. He writes, you guys always say you get squirreled. What does that mean?
The squirrel is the classic that we are on a topic and we decide to go off topic in a very large tangent. Thus, the kind of squirrel effect of
Squirrel!
Found a nut, and I've now seen something shiny over there. Let's go for that.
I've been asked this before, and I'm like, has nobody ever seen Up?
Yeah.
That's where, that kind of,
It's a total Doug moment,
Yeah.
like where we're just on something, and then the bright and shiny thing shows up, and we get easily distracted.
if you want someone just to read you a script, plain and simple, there's plenty of other podcasts that you can check out.
No, we like to improv and go offline sometimes.
Yeah. Sometimes.
Most of the time.
What was the episode that you talked about British clothing in the middle of?
Ernest? No.
Was it Ernest?
No, it was something else, but
Christmas?
Oh, maybe it was Chris. No, I don't remember. But
I don't know. There are
Exactly.
so
Now
many-
we're screwing because we have no idea.
so many times we get thrown off topic.
And then we go, what did we talk about
we
last
spent
week?
10 minutes
Where
on
were
British
we?
clothing.
What were we talking about?
And then Peter Shin at Pete'sBest@yahoo.com. I thought you guys made up the book selections from the weird Amazon book episode, but to my surprise, they were all real. I have an uncle I hate in Sacramento, so for Christmas, I sent him the Farting Dog books. Thanks for the help.
You're welcome, Pete.
Yes, you are welcome.
Yes.
We'll maybe go back and find you more books in the future.
We did say those were all real books. So I'm
Exactly.
surprised you thought they were real books. All right, well, you can find us in all the podcast stuff or the Podcad, which is a new format of podcasting called Podcad. Don't look for it because I just made it up.
You know, you can also check out our Facebook group, the OTL Podcast Network,
Or the Podcad Network.
or the Podcad Network.
Podcast.
It's going to be our new page. That one you won't have to answer a question on to join, so you just have to know what a podcast is.
Which we're still trying to figure out, so good luck to you.
You cad, you made a pod.
All right, who are you guys?
I am James, the Jedi, the British guy.
Yes, you are. People go to me and
Yeah.
they say, the British guy said.
Yeah, I say lots of things, words mainly.
And I am JL. I know how to throw a temper tantrum like Kylo Ren, Tros.
And I am Christopher. I can't come up with a clever Star Wars.
I am a cooler bounty hunter than IG-88.
That's right. DeVos. Bye.
Bye. May the Force be with you.
You are no longer listening to Podcast 42. Bye-bye.
Some of the stuff you just heard might have been embellished, made up, or just plain incorrect. In other words, don't use this show to write a book report with. You will get a bad grade. Just like all the hosts.
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!